new year, a new month in a new year, the first Sunday in the new month in the new year. Centers for Spiritual Living's theme for 2019 is spirituality in action. And have anybody been asking you to take it to the streets? Whatever that means to you. And the January theme is, as I said earlier, it's learn and embody science of mind principles. And I have brought the book of the month. And mine's leather bound and has gold trim, but you could probably order one too. Diane, can you get some? Of course. Absolutely. That's good. Well, these are the basic principles of science of mind. And as Ernest Holmes says in the very beginning of this book, as he's welcoming us to understanding more about life and its principles and how we can have ours work more beautifully and harmoniously and creatively, intelligently, lovingly, and dynamically, he starts out by saying these lessons are dedicated to that truth which frees man from himself and sets him on the pathway of a new experience, which enables him to see through the mist to the eternal and changeless reality. Anyone have any mist in your life right now through which you'd like to see through? How about all of us? Okay? And we can by recognizing that nothing external is permanent. Nothing external is permanent. Everything is in flux. As Lao Tzu said over 6,000 years ago, everything is healthy that flows with the universe. And conversely, everything is not healthy that doesn't. So we are ready, willing, and able to let these things flow and to come back to the eternal, infinite truth and wisdom that never changes. We are expanding our consciousness into a greater awareness of what truly is, permanently, eternally. We understand more and more every day. I don't think that God is getting bigger, but I know our concept of God is getting bigger as we expand our consciousness of it and seek to align ourselves more deeply and more completely with that living, loving presence that's within us. This teaching is based on two principles, love and law, which we'll discuss in a little more depth. Ernest Holmes says, but the great love of the universe must be one with the great law of its own being as we approach through law. This then is the teaching, love and law. That's on page 26 of the good book. We first discover divine nature in the universe. It's wonderful to look around us and to uncover something beautiful and unique everywhere. Walking in the woods, kayaking, being out in the world is wonderful. Exploring countries, exploring our own country. We determine that there's something that we have in common with every place we may be and all the peoples that we may find. Because underneath everything there is the oneness and the uniqueness which makes our world so fascinating. So we discover this divine nature in the universe and we align with it consciously. We can't be outside of it, but it can feel as though we are separate and apart sometimes. Anyone ever feel separate, apart? Yeah. It's never true, but it can be our experience, which is why we study and apply these beautiful principles. Ernest Holmes didn't make them up. He called forth from all of the great religions, traditions, philosophies, from science, and he found a wonderful way to make universal principles so workable in our own personal lives that they're practical, that we put them to use, and we make our lives better, and we make our families happier, and we make the world a better place to be. So we're empowered by this divine nature when we understand it. I was in meditation the other day, and an interesting phrase came to me. I was truly feeling Oneness, oneness. And the phrase that came to me was, no other gods. No other gods. Shalt have no other gods before you. Let's not make things up and give them power that they don't have. There's only one power in the universe. It's a power for good, and we can use it. Let's use it for good. Because sometimes we use it upside down. Have you noticed? That there are things that happen in the world because of the misuse of this wonderful law of mind that we all get to use. There's two aspects of infinite mind. One is the objective, and the other is the subjective. Okay, now I'm putting on my teacher's hat here. One mind, two aspects of the one mind. And it's the universal conscious mind of which we are all a part, and which we utilize as our individual conscious mind, where we think and we choose and we make decisions. And there is the subjective universal mind and the individualized use of that subjective mind which we use. In other words, we make a choice. We set our intention. We do a spiritual mind treatment, an affirmative prayer. We're using the conscious aspect of God's mind. We're using part of God's mind. Isn't that awesome? And then we speak our word, either silently or out loud, and the subconscious part of our mind accepts that, just as a seed is put into the fertile soil. And that's a part of the greater subjective mind. So as I make my choice, as I speak my word with power, it's received through my subjective mind into the greater subjective mind, where the law of God is at work. Cause and effect. Jesus taught it. He taught it by speaking about agriculture. You plant your seed, it's going to grow. Put it in good soil. Make sure it's a good seed. Make sure it's healthy. Make sure it's about harmony. Make sure it's about everything good for everybody. And then let this creative soil grow it. So the two aspects of mind, very important. Two Greek words, nomenon and phenomenon. I say phenomenon because it comes from, nomenon means the name of the thing. It's invisible. It's on the invisible side of life. And phenomenon comes from phenomenon, which is the showing forth of the word. So we speak our word, we speak it empowered by the one power of good, which is ours to use. When we discover this is ours to use, we become free. We no longer are restricted by, well, I'm only this, or I'm not enough of that, or after all, if you knew my background, or my parents. We get to move beyond all of that. We get to realize that this power is beautiful, and it's God-given. God-given. So I speak my word, whether it is silently or audibly, and the law says yes. We want to keep the main thing, right? When I got that in meditation the other day, have no other gods, let's remember that there's one thing. The thing itself is the name of this talk. People for years, for centuries, have been looking for the one thing, the thing itself. And in fact, it's been used by philosophers who were seeking the underlying essence of everything. So it's not something Ernest Holmes made up, the thing itself. And it's objective enough that we're not anthropomizing God, making personal God. No anthropomorphizing. No big God in the sky with a long beard who's got a big book and is checking it off. Is that where we got the thing about Santa Claus? I mean, interesting. Anyway, one thing, one something. Leibniz, the philosopher, began what was called the perennial philosophy. And that became, Aldous Huxley wrote a book about it then. Something that flows through all, that is threads flowing through all the great philosophies and spiritual traditions. One presence, one God, personalizing itself, individualizing itself. Those of you who were here at our winter solstice saw truth being spoken through so many faith traditions. The one thread that tends to go through all of them is the golden rule. It's said in so many different ways, isn't it? We want to use this power for good, for good. Do unto others what you would have them do unto you. Let's open our hearts and let the divine love that is that beautiful presence that brought us into being to begin with, let it flow through us as we are using this great law of good to make things better in our lives. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life. Now, there's a song about that now. Say it with me. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. What a wonderful, freeing awareness. I'm no longer separate. I can feel that way from time to time, but I'm silly if I do, because there's, I am. Anybody here ever get silly? I heard a friend recently say she was a silly goose. I've been that. I prefer to be a wise owl. Ernest Holmes says, we shall never encompass God, yet we shall always be in God and of God, because it's we who are expanding. It's we who are becoming more of what we were individualized here to be. We've got to stop doing what Buckminster Fuller said. He says, we're just like infants crawling around the floor of the universe. That's an interesting picture, isn't it? Infants crawling around the floor of the universe until we finally get that we're so much more than that. We cannot be outside of this divine presence. We cannot stop creating intelligently or not so intelligently. So I would say that this new year would be a good idea to decide that we're going to use the creative intelligent law intelligently. And stop ourselves, because every now and then the silly goose person is going to pop up. Every now and then we're going to forget. And we're going to start complaining or griping or feeling fearful or separate. That's the time to just gently bring ourselves back. Gently come back. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life right now. One mind, not two. The conscious mind is spirit, and the subconscious mind is law. Isn't it wonderful to know that the universal intelligence individualizes itself in and through each one of us? You are a little God pod sitting here right now, creative, intelligent, loving, and wise. I want you to get who you are. I want to remember who I am at the same time. Each of us is a little God pod. And we have access to all of the intelligence and all of the wisdom, all of the love, all of the compassion in the universe. Let's just open our hearts to it. Let's open our minds to it. Let's read the first chapter of the Science of Mind, the thing itself. And then for next week, let's read the next chapter, which is the way it works. And then it's what it does, and then it's how to use it. We're co-creators with the infinite. That's a wonderful, joyous responsibility. We are co-creators with the infinite. We bring the invisible from the noumenon, the intangible, into the visible, tangible world in which we live, the phenomenon. What have we been bringing out into our lives? It's a good day to ask that. It's a good day to take a gentle inventory. Wasn't it wonderful the last day of December, the last day of 2018, to have that burning bowl and to write down the things we were ready to release from 2018 and whoosh, see them go flash? That was a wonderful visual. Don't try and go back and find that, because it's not there anymore. You saw it disappear before your very eyes. And now, you and I are free to recreate, to redefine, to realign, to discover the magnificence that lies within us that's ready to express itself in the coming days and year. Our mind and spirit, says Ernest Holmes, is our echo of the eternal thing itself. Wow. Our echo of the eternal thing itself. Have you thought about what you would like to co-create? Now that you're free of that which you released that may have restricted you in any way at all? Science of Mind is a deeply spiritual and practical teaching. It empowers us. It empowers all of humanity as we help everyone awaken to it, to discover its divinity by practicing simple, powerful principles of life. Ernest Holmes suggested that we have this foundation, the two principles, the two pillars, if you will. I've decided that two of these pillars need to be named. One will be Jachin and the other will be Boaz, because they stand for love and law. And those are the two pillars of the temple of Solomon that people walk through in order to enter the sacred temple. Love and law. And Ernest Holmes suggested that we court the presence and then direct the law. When I am aligned with the spiritual presence and power within and all around me, then I am free to speak my word of truth, make a conscious decision about the direction I'm ready to have my life go. I am ready, willing, and able then, because I'm feeling empowered by that loving presence and power within me. I court the presence. I court the presence primarily in meditation and in keeping alert, giving myself assignments to see only that which is beautiful within others, to see only that which is promising within the environment, to see that something wonderful is happening everywhere, that there are millions of other light workers. We're all in this together, making the consciousness sweeter and deeper and higher and wiser and more loving and more productive and creative than ever before. Never mind what it might look like from time to time, pockets of this here and there. The light is eternal. It's ours to use. It's brighter than any of the temporary, please remember, temporary darkness that may appear in our lives or in the world. Divine love is very personal. And the law, on the other end, is quite impersonal. Isn't that wonderful? The love of God is quite personal. And we get to embody that and share it with the beautiful people in our lives. And the law is quite impersonal. Plant the seed, and it will grow so long as it's fertile soil and I don't dig it up and question it. We'll be getting into that more as the weeks go by. The intelligent, creative law. See, it has an intelligence that knows only to do. It can't decide for you. The law must have your word, your thought, your intention. And then it will fulfill that intention. It may be consciously directed and definitely used. So it's not like we're telling God what to do. We're listening in the courting the presence phase of this twofold, of these two pillars of our teaching. We're listening and opening our hearts. Show me the way. Show me the way. And allow ourselves to be so filled with divine inspiration and creative, intelligent activity that we're choosing wonderful new intentions for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for the world. And then the law says yes. The law always says yes. Isn't that wonderful? The universe always says yes, yes, yes. We can count on it. unless we get ourselves in the way. But we got ourselves out of the way on the last day of December, really. Yeah. We're now ready, open, willing. If there's anything left, go ahead and burn it up, at least in your mind. Because we change our thinking and we change our lives. We've heard that for a long time, those of you who have been in this teaching, and that truly is what occurs. Limited beliefs are then transformed into expansive possibilities. We get to think not just outside of the box. We want to get ourselves out of the box completely and let these limiting beliefs be transformed. Be ye transformed by the renewing of our minds. Okay, one more Greek word. Metanoia. Be ye transformed by the transforming of your minds. Metanoia simply means to turn the mind in another direction. They like that. The transformation is about looking now to that which is eternal rather than that which is temporal. Metanoia, one of my favorite words. So we're changing. God never changes. The eternal, intelligent, creative, loving activity is always, always present. What I do with it makes all the difference in my life. I think that's probably the same for you. Oh, in fact, I'm sure of it. What we do with this loving presence by simply being alive to it, awake to it, aligned with it, inviting it to express through us is very wonderful. What you and I get to do is simply be the instruments through which it shines forth. And then what each of us chooses to do with the law is up to us. It's up to us. We have sovereignty. How do you like that? Say that with me. I have sovereignty. I have sovereignty. You get to choose. And if you didn't like what you chose yesterday, guess what you get to do? Choose again today. I love this teaching. Thank God I grew up in it. I understand that we have not a corner on the market of truth, but we have a beautiful truth. And we love seeing how it operates in other people's faith traditions as well. We love knowing that the teachings of Jesus are very applicable in our lives. We love that the Ten Commandments are applicable in our lives, especially when we look at them metaphysically. No other gods before me. There's one God, one life, everywhere present, the thing itself. It's beautiful, it's loving, it's creative, it's wise, and it is expressing in, through, and as each and every one of us right now. Will you say with me, I celebrate the foundational life of God in all. I celebrate the foundational life of God in all. Love is my essence. Love is my essence. Law is my faithful friend. Law is my faithful friend. I am empowered to use the power for good. To use the power for good. And so, my beloveds, beginneth your lesson.